Welcome back to another episode. Ryan and Kevin here with Chaos MMA, and today we have on Miranda Maverick, who now fights Sabina Mazo on 2 weeks' notice, March 12th at UFC Vegas. First off, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Pretty tired today. Had like four different trainings and just got done with the last one. So meeting you guys on here right after that.
Thank you for doing that. And yeah, but how has training been for like a short notice camp? Like, is it in constant intensity workouts to get in that fight shape, or were you already in that fight shape?
I'm already in fight shape, and that's the good thing is like always waiting for short notice fights. I actually, it's funny, I messaged my manager and told him to tell the matchmaker 2 weeks ago. Well, yeah, it was about 2 weeks ago. I said, hey, tell him 10 days or more notice. I'm ready to go. And he said, all right. And then I got this call. I made sure I was healthy and ready before I said that. A lot of times fighters will just take it if they have their 8 weeks and all that. But I've been ready to go. I've been training every single day, helping other girls get ready for their fight camps and improving between my own fight camps. And then when I got the call, there wasn't really any much doubt. I just called my coaches and asked them if they confirm, called my dad and asked him to watch some footage. And I watched some footage too. And within a couple hours, it was a go.
And when did you exactly get that call? Like last week, we know it happened last week, but when exactly did you get that call about this
It
fight?
was the night before I announced it. So I think it was at 2 weeks and like 3 days or something like that. So it wasn't much longer that you guys knew about it before I did. I literally agreed the night prior pretty late. And then that morning I got the contract, signed it, and posted about it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and did you want to get back in there around that date, or did you just feel like this is an opportunity that I can't pass up and you just had to take it?
No, a little bit of both. I had wanted a fight around March. I had been saying since December when I had my last fight, I was like, all right, give me a month to enjoy family and enjoy the holidays and everything, and then be able to do a full swing fight camp. And that would have given me 8 weeks until mid-March. So this worked out perfect. I healed up from that fight, let myself have a little bit of recovery time to where I was still training hard, but taking it a little easier, taking nights off when I wanted to. And then the last, I would say, month to month and a half, I've just been grinding really hard. And when I got the call, the only thing we did in my training to up it was really push my cardio for a few days to make sure that I was stamina wise where I need to be for this fight. And I think from my strength and conditioning and also the amount of
Yeah.
sparring rounds we've been doing, I'm definitely good to go.
Yeah. And so, how do you feel about these short notice fights? Because, for example, it just happened last week. Bobby Green stepped in with Islam. Do you feel like you're gonna like the fans are gonna support you a lot more for these short notice?
I hope they do. I hope they support me no matter what my decision is as far as when I take fights. I don't think that should be a deciding factor,
Yeah.
but I think they will. And it's one of those things where I take fights that I typically think are smart. And I think this is a really good matchup for me. I think it's exactly what I would have wanted if I had gotten to hand pick an amount of fighters that I wanted. She would have been one of the names. So I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, and how about like short notice fights? Because one of the biggest moments that came in the sport with a short notice fight was Nate Diaz beating Conor McGregor on like 10 days notice. So like, is this something you have always been like a fan of, like doing a short notice fight? And if you got the call, you're always gonna take it?
It's just one of those things where it depends on the person in front of me. I've had short notice offers before I was ever in the UFC to become a UFC fighter, and I refused a couple of them. But it was one of those things where they were just offering me a one fight contract to come in, get beaten, and leave the promotion. So you have to be smart about the ones that you pick. But my Aaron Blanchfield fight last time was on 4 weeks notice or 3.5 or something, so it wasn't much before this. My Maycee Barber fight was one of the only fights I've ever had where I had a full like 8 weeks notice. So that one was really great to prepare for and everything. But every single one before that has always been like 4 weeks or less. When I was in Invicta, I think the most time we ever had to prep was 5 weeks or 4 weeks. So I always try to stay in fight shape and just put my name out there and tell somebody when I want to fight and make sure I'm ready within that same period of time.
Yeah, and speaking of these like this fight coming up and your past fight, when you got the call, is this something you had to think about? Because this is a big opportunity for you because we know your last two fights didn't go your way, but the Maycee fight, we'll get into that later. But many
Yeah.
people, including ourselves, we really did think you took that fight, and we were very shocked by that. But did you have to think about this for like a little bit when you got the call, or you felt this was
Not I really wanted to take it automatically, but I try to be very respectful of my coaches and get everyone's opinion who matters, which includes my dad, who's usually in my corner. So wanted everybody to watch some footage, make sure I didn't, miss something that I had seen about Sabina to where it would be risky for, this. You don't want to be on a 3-fight skid with the UFC. You just don't, especially when it comes to renegotiating your contract. And so I wanted to make sure I took it and was smart about it. And I'm really happy with this fight. I'm really excited to go out there and show what I can do. In the past, I have wanted to fight Sabina. So I've already watched a lot of her fights before the UFC. When she was the LFA champion, I almost took a fight against her and ended up having an Invicta fight come up instead. So I took it. But I've researched her before. I kind of knew who she was. I knew what her strengths were, her weaknesses, and I just wanted to make sure that hadn't changed. So we all watched the tapes and we made sure I was in shape enough that everybody agreed we were ready to go on 2-week notice.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we had Sabina on last week and she said she's been studying the division for a while now because it's like your job and you're doing the same thing. So I think we're in for a really good fight then if you're both been studying each other from previous years, like you said. So that'll be nice.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. I think all of us within the flyweight division, we pretty much know everybody within the division. May not know some of them to the point of what are they good at, what are they bad at, but we know each other's names, and about half of us know each other very well to the point that we've studied tape and seen what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are. And especially within the UFC, we're watching the UFC fights almost every weekend, so we get to see who's doing what.
No doubt. And we know it's a short notice fight, but do you think we will see the best Miranda Maverick? Because you want to make a statement. You are in fight shape, you said. Do you think we're going to see the best possible Miranda Maverick in 2 weeks? And no, in 1 week about now, March 12th?
Yeah, I do. I try to make it to where every fight is like that. My last one was a bit of a disappointment, as everyone knows that watched the fight. My Maycee Barber fight, I think, was one of my better performances. I went out there and showed out like I wanted to, and unfortunately, the decision didn't go my way. And I think this time will be no different. I've been training in between camps, working on improving what obviously was shown as weaknesses in the Aaron Blanchfield fight, from wrestling defense, grappling defense, and then also being offensively smarter. My coach always jokes that I'm like a bull in china cabinet, and I need to learn to be a little bit more backing off and knowing when to strike and picking my times sometimes. So fight IQ is just improving on the daily basis, and I plan on showing that in this fight.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so sorry. So when you're imagining this fight, how do you think it's gonna play out? Like, Miranda, when you're thinking, like, how do you think the fight's gonna play out, and how do you think you're gonna get your hand raised at the end of the day?
I don't want to reveal a fight plan or anything, but
Yeah.
I will say I think that I am more well-rounded than her by far. I think that my strengths are going to be a lot more obvious than her strengths. She's longer by far. She has a lot of reach advantage on me, and she has her certain things she's known for. That long jab, those high kicks to where she's gotten those highlight reel knockouts. But I plan on going in there and just stuffing everything that she tries, and not getting to where she can throw those kicks at distance, either getting too far in or too far out. And me being a southpaw, I think, is going to add too. She's fought a couple of southpaws in the past, but I don't think they exactly utilized what they should have as far as their footwork.
Yes, I can't wait for the fight. I'm excited. The stakes are really high, and I'm sure you're going to have a great performance. So you go out there, you win, no injuries, everything's going good. When would you want to be back in the octagon?
Within a few months. I like taking 3 a year is what I would say is my average that I'm trying to have as a goal. So I don't know, maybe July.
Yeah, can't wait. And I wanted to ask you about this. I know you want to be active this year and stuff. I wanted to ask you about this, like we said earlier in the interview with the Maycee fight. Many people, like we said, thought it went your way, and the judges didn't for some reason, and it was surprising. So, is this a fight you look back on and you're like, I want this fight when I get like more on into my career? Is that a fight you want back eventually?
Of course. So I asked to have the Maycee rematch when Montana De La Rosa wasn't able to, when she dropped out of their fight, and then Maycee ended up dropping out too for injury. So it ended up working out, and now they're getting ready to book that fight again. But I asked to rematch, and she has no interest, and I wouldn't be surprised as to why. I guess I wouldn't want that rematch either if I were her. So I do think she'll be forced to have that happen in the future when maybe we're number 4 and number 5 in the world, a little bit higher up, which is when I think that fight should have happened to begin with. It was a fan favorite fight. That's what everybody wanted to see. And I think it happened a little too early. They're pitting all these young fighters against each other. I mean, even now, me against Sabina, I think it's almost silly because a couple of us are going to get knocked out when they need this new talent. But there's the tough show coming up, and we'll have more fresh blood into the division soon. So I'm excited about that as well. But yeah, the Maycee fight will happen eventually. I have no doubt.
So when her opponent fell out before she fell out too, so there were talks with that fight. Like, did it ever get close, or like you said, she didn't want it at all? Like, so there.
There was an absolute no from her. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow. And speaking of that and everything, we've been seeing the last couple of weeks with the judges making some iffy calls and everything. What do you think could be the solution to fixing the judging system in the sport? Like, what do you think?
I think the ideal is that they're fighters. The ideal is that these judges have had fights before, or that they have to go through a certain curriculum test to be able to be judges, other than I've scored other sports events, I want to do this one too. Boxing is very different than MMA. Just grappling is very different than MMA. I think you need experience. The hard part of that is, will the pay equal enough to make fighters want to do that? And a lot of fighters aren't really interested in sitting down on the sidelines and watching and judging after they're done with their career. They want to either be a referee, or a coach or something, not so much a judge. But I think that's the best solution, is having like a stricter curriculum, or even like a check on these judges. Like, after there's so many calls, there should be, I don't know, like a foul point against them or something, to where it's like 3 strikes and you're out as an MMA coach. Like, sometimes it just gets ridiculous. And I think a lot of these coaches we see repeatedly being the same ones that throw up these weird scorings.
Yeah, I think like the judges, if they make a questionable call, they should have to come talk about it in like the press conference after, because this could potentially ruin a fighter's career if you're giving them the wrong side of the call. So I think if they get to explain themselves, that would be much better for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And I try to be respectful. After my Maycee fight, I made a respectful post, and, a loss is a loss. It is what it is. Didn't do enough in whoever's eyes. But when I got back to my hotel room and I finally sat down and calmed down and watched the fight, I was more appalled than I was even right afterwards, because I couldn't see any way it was scored towards her. But it's one of those things that you can't help. You move on. It's money lost out of my pocket, and I'm going to try to not make that same mistake again.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so me and Ryan are definitely going to be tuning in March 12th for that fight. Can't wait to see it. So I got one more last thing here. So we always make ask the fighters for predictions for the next upcoming fight, and I'm sure you know what I'm already talking about. Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal. Whose hand do you see getting raised? How? And yeah.
I'm going to say Covington. I think he's just going to grind it out, a decision.
Yeah, I have the same here. That is.
I think it is going to be an exciting fight, though. The history between them and the way that they both know how to hype up fights and get their reputation known, whether it's a bad or a good way, it works for them.
No doubt.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on. It was really good speaking with you. And if you want to shout out any sponsors, any social media, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I have fearthemaverick.net. It's a website. It's not completely new, but it's newer. If everybody wants to go check out the gear, I'm hoping to have new gear up before my fight. If not, I did just update the inventory on all of my shirts, hats, autograph pictures and stuff like that, including gloves and things. So if you want them, go check it out, fearthemaverick.net. And then as far as sponsors, I've got tons of them on that page and on my Instagram, all the way from my meal prep to my supplements that I take for fight camp to certain clothes I wear. I'm actually wearing a chocolate milk sponsor I have right now. So yeah, I use this stuff. I just got done arguing with somebody on Instagram and then just deleted the comment because I don't believe in doing that stuff. It gets annoying. But they're like, oh, these brands are junk. You're just throwing them out there for money grabs. And I'm like, no, I actually use at least my sponsors. I have a lot of them, but I use it for everyday stuff, all the way from my water sponsor, it's literally all the water I drink, to this chocolate milk sponsor, to my meal prep company that I eat their meals every single day. The brands that I always advertise to people are literally the ones that I use on a daily basis.
No doubt there are definitely a lot of trolls out there that are going to always try to start something up. But thanks again for coming on. Can't wait for the fight. And yeah, we'll speak soon. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.